Oh, wait, I don't have a pen. I got you. Okay.
All right. Well, let's start the June meeting of the Metropolitan School District North Posey by joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
The vision, we inspire all students to achieve their potential for learning and life in a safe and supportive environment. Our mission is we partner with our community to create a dynamic and innovative educational experience, empowering students to become educated, productive, and responsible citizens. Our core beliefs, we believe our community is vital to our educational success. Everyone is valued and treated with respect and always telling the truth. An educational opportunity for all. Student-centered programs challenging and inspiring learning, and in the pursuit of excellence through a strong sense of pride. Our high priorities, enhancing the student experience, investing in teachers and administrators, fostering strong relationships among all, and maximizing resources.
All right. So first item is patron concerns, and we have none present. And the next one is the minutes, claim docket, and consent items. And looking for a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve different items.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mrs. Will, seconded by Mr. Colley. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0. All right, the next one is new business.
Yes, first up this evening, we have a 3-year preventive maintenance service agreement renewal with DeBraw Kemple. This is for a HVAC system. And so they have been servicing us, I think, probably at least for the past 2 years. So this is a 3-year agreement. The first 2 years will be at the current rate. And then you can see there with the 3rd year would be bumped up a little bit more than the previous years. So we bring this forward. I think the increase would be about $556 total on that 3rd year, but we bring that forward this evening for your consideration.
All right, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with DeBraw Kemple.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Oakley, seconded by Mr. Colley. Any comments or questions? I know we bid this out the first time it came through.
Yep.
So I think the $500 is much of an increase, so. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0.
Next up, you have a right of entry. This is with the Posey County Regional Sewer District. As you're aware, they're running the sewer lines now between Wadesville and Blairsville. This is just giving them permission to mainly, I think, give them right of way or right of entry there at the health clinic. I think it's pretty well what they're looking at. So anyway, before I sign this, I want to bring it to the board to get your permission to do this, but it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Looking for a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the right of entry contract with Wadesville Blairsville sewer improvements.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Colley, second by Mr. Oakley to approve the right of entry contract. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Next up this evening, we are always wanting to be good community members. And the Poseyville Kiwanis Club, it's that time of the year again, believe it or not, has brought forth a request to use property outside of North Elementary School, as well as the property west of the district office and north of the soccer field for the 2022 Autumn Fest, which will be held on September the 24th and 25th. And the setup of the event will begin on Friday, September the 23rd. And so we're always excited to bring this forward for your consideration. So we wholeheartedly endorse this.
Where is it going to be? This area?
Yeah,
Fireworks.
I think the
Oh,
fireworks
the
is down
fireworks,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
The whole thing's, okay, I thought you, all right.
They also plug in, they also have electric on our lawn out there, and then they also use our water
And probably our parking lot too.
and our parking lot.
Definitely.
And he also, Ryan Oath added us to the insurance policy as well, because they're gonna have a beer stew. So
Okay.
they've added, he called and asked if I wanted that, and I said, yes, absolutely.
The beer stew is not on our property.
No.
Okay.
It is not. But they
Just to clarify.
they still added us to it, yes, but no, it isn't.
Good question.
So looking for a motion to approve the requests for facility use of North
I'll
Elementary.
make the motion to approve the Kiwanis Club's facility use request.
I can second that.
Motion by Mr. Oakley, second by Mr. Colley, to approve the Kiwanis Club's request. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Next up this evening, we are in our final year with Aramark and the food service agreement. This coming year, school year, we'll be sending out new bids for our food service. So we'll be working through that bidding process this coming year, but this is the final year for this. Just a couple of things I want to point out. Based upon our current estimates, and keep in mind, everything right now, supply chain and stuff is definitely changing on a day-by-day basis. Cost of chicken, I know this past week, my wife went and a family pack that's normally $5 is now $15. So it's definitely going up, but our projected surplus for the end of next school year will be $13,742.53. Keep in mind that's current, that's mainly looking at all the current maintenance expenses. That's looking at the food expenses, management fees, all those different kinds of things to come up with that cost. So if by some chance we give a pay raise this coming year, which we plan to do, that would eat in a little bit to that surplus that we might have. So this is, I feel like they've done a good job. Keep in mind that almost 2 of those 3 years have been dealing with COVID. So they're really now just kind of starting to get their legs underneath them and really beginning to grow the program. We definitely had a good surplus this year. It benefited us to actually have the USDA waiver that allowed all of our kids to be free. We've not heard anything about that at this time from the USDA, and so like all of our principals have been notifying our parents through newsletters towards the end of the school year and even over the summer that be prepared coming back in next school year that most likely we're going to be back to charging for lunches again and stuff. So, but anyway, we're bringing this contract forward this evening for your consideration for that final year of the agreement.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the final year of the food service contract with Aramark.
I'll make a motion to approve the final amendment of the food service contract.
Have a second?
I can second it.
Motion by Mrs. Will, seconded by Mr. Colley to approve the contract with Aramark. Any other comments or questions?
Before next year, when we go through the bid process, can we take some time and look at the positives and negatives and exactly what we're looking for with the next contract?
Yeah, there'll be a lengthy process as we go through that. And so we'll actually begin that probably here in the next, probably August is when we'll start that
The
process.
survey would be.
Yeah, I think we did that when we started the bid process
the last time.
last time.
And I think that was very beneficial on some of the things that they were wanting to see. And
So good.
All those in favor of approving the contract, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0.
Okay, next up this evening, you have a contract for AdTech. This has kind of already been put in place just because this rolled out and we were underneath the time limit on this and it had to be approved at or moved forward at a certain time. If you remember correctly, all of our Chromebooks this year were replaced by this FCC connectivity. And so this is the third round and final round is the way we understand this of funding that's coming from the FCC. What we are doing with this one is mainly putting hotspots on our buses. And what this is going to allow us to do is like when we do ECA activities or trips or even just going home at the end of the day, our kids could actually start doing their homework and things on their computers. And so, so this funding came open. This is just the contract for us to agree. AdTech then is the company that applies for that grant for us. And so far, they've been very fortunate in securing that money and stuff. So we bring that forward this evening for your consideration.
Looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with AdTech.
Motion by Mr. Oakley, second by Ms. Will to approve the contract with AdTech. Comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0.
Next up this evening is we have a contract with Captivated Content. This is one of our graduates, Casey Velker, who has started a company actually here in Poseyville. And what we did was, as we've come in and we've looked at, Michelle and I have had conversations about marketing our district. And really not so much marketing from the standpoint of like sending flyers into Mount Vernon or Evansville or something like that, but just getting a very clear and concise of what is our story. What is it that we're doing differently than South Gibson or Mount Vernon or EVSC, and then being able to concisely tell that story. So Jeff and I talked a little bit about, the branding, which we branded ourselves with the NP, and that's kind of become that look of North Posey, but also, I think we were joking at one time, if you go up to northern Indiana, people ask, oh, you're from North Putnam, or New Palestine is the other one, So sometimes, that branding is there. And the other thing we've noticed is just that when you go on Facebook, the one thing that both Michelle and I had noticed coming into the district was that if you weren't part of the wrestling club, you maybe didn't know what was going on, because when you go onto Facebook, they have those algorithms. And so depending upon what you look at, what you search and those kinds of things determines what pops up on your Facebook feed. So if you were not part of one of those groups, you maybe had no clue what was going on with, just like we were talking about the Clay Target guys this past week. So what this is actually going to do, what we're wanting to try to do is streamline our Facebook or social media presence to where there is one brand, more or less. There's also possibly one, what word?
Keep going, because I don't know where you're at.
Like on Twitter, you go like at Viking
Oh,
Nation.
hashtag.
Thank you, hashtag.
I was like,
I was going back to, this actually shows how old I am. I was going back to CV Talk. Your handle was what I was thinking. I'm like, that's not it. I know some of you there had no clue what a CV is, but anyway.
I know that.
You know that, don't you? All right, we got a handle. So, but your hashtag, where when we post things, everything's underneath that hashtag. What I've been most impressed with is Nick's Manufacturing and how that they've created this image for themselves. They've recognized their staff through the monthly kind of focus group or focus sessions. They've really kind of been able to create that social media presence. And so that's kind of what we're working with Casey on. And what we really wanted to do is we talked about with Casey and in your pricing there, if you'll flip back Amy, if you'll flip over to kind of the page, the last page of the project selection. You've got different kinds of things there. And first off, these are the maximum amounts that it would cost us. Because what we've talked about doing is going with Casey and getting an intern that would mainly be overseeing all these different things. And what we really want to try to do is this is mainly building the foundation to where we want our kids to be starting to do this. So really what this person is going to be doing is working with like our Sling Studio to actually develop these spotlights and stuff to where in the future, as we move out of this maybe first year and the second year, our kids start doing these things to where now it's actually part of our curriculum and we got more ownership of it because our kids are doing it. So the first part, the brand guidelines and logos, that would mainly be, we would create kind of a Google file that would have the actual, what Viking head are we going to use? What MP are we going to use? What are the correct colors of North Posey? You know, the correct red, the correct black, those kinds of things. All that would be created into a Google file to where these people over here or any of our staff could get to that file and they would have that same brand guidelines, logos. When we send something out to the community, it would all have the same appearance, you know, to where there's consistency to that as well. So this first section here would mainly be probably a 1-year cost, because once it was set, once it's taken care of, then that would come off. The design assistance for mailers and flyers. There are certain flyers that go out into our community for other schools. I'm not going to name what other schools there are, but we would like to be able to have something that we would send out that would kind of demonstrate to our families in our community that these are the programs that we offer, to give them that idea of what they do.
It would go to our community.
It would go to our community. So the way we do that is you select what zip codes that we service. So, but when that flyer went out from that school, we would send out a flyer the next week from our school to kind of balance that out, so they understood this is what we're offering. You know, the monthly employee spotlight, that would be us selecting an employee, and so we would do probably about a 3 to 4 minute segment. It would be a video segment that would be posted on Facebook, and it would highlight an employee in our district. It may not be a teacher, it may be a custodian, it may be a bus driver, it could be anybody. The program highlight, that would be us actually highlighting a program. So like, for example, it could be the welding program. It could be the STEM projects. It could be the robotics club. It could be something like that, to where those kinds of things are out there and people are being able to see this. The last one, the quarterly alumni spotlight, we took that off right now. We really didn't want to spend our money on that aspect at this point in time. Now down the road, that might be something that we feel like, hey, this could be something that might be worth it. But at this point in time, we just felt like that, you know, with where we were, we didn't feel like that was good. The other thing we talked about with Casey was that we're really looking at trying to increase our enrollment. Like we, you know, if you remember correctly, we showed you that transfer report from the DOE, and we had a lot of kids that were transferring out of our district, not even coming to our district. And so it was like, how can we capture those kids and keep them here? And so we talked to Casey a little bit about, do we build in an incentive package for either the intern or himself that, you know, if we increase by 5 students or 6 students, you get an additional bonus of like $500 or something like that. Because keep in mind, for each additional kid that comes in, we get another $6,700 for that kid. What we are proposing with this is that we use ESSER 3 money. We feel like that's an investment. That's not, you know, that's that federal funds that's coming through, and that's an investment that hopefully will turn around and generate funds for us through bringing in more students and highlighting our district and stuff. So this is kind of what we're thinking as we've talked through it. Like I said, those are the maximum amounts because what would happen is once the intern, and we found an intern and came on board, they would actually we'd be paying them and they would be doing some of these things. So the cost would not be as high for that.
Yeah. The spotlights are going to be on Facebook, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Why $850 and $1,000? I mean, why is it that much?
Yeah, the way I understand it is that's the time that Casey would be doing the filming, they come out and they film that person, doing the editing, you know, they probably put music to
Then
it.
we get where our club is doing that, it would, okay.
And he also said at the end of the year, you could take all those program spotlights and create a video, an advertisement of some sort with snippets of all of those things that we could have on our website or whatever. That would be a nice
Coming back to the flyer,
compiled.
the flyer as well, the other thing we've talked a little bit about is like a lot of our realtors don't have anything that deals with North Posey. So that would be developing a flyer that we would present to our realtors in the community to where if they're selling a house in our district, they have a flyer highlighting North Posey and the services and the programs that we offer and stuff. So.
I think we've been asking for this for a long time, so that's great.
Mhm.
And we always like supporting our
Our
graduates.
graduates, yes.
His proposal is very impressive.
And I don't know if you've seen, Casey's already been at a lot of things, and I think
Mhm.
when we've talked to him, he says, I've already been taking some shots and been here, been there, and so I mean, he's very excited about this and looking forward to it, I think, and it's, you know, he's launching his business here in Poseyville, I think down here at the Founder House. I think the back portion of it is where his office is gonna be, so this is kind of in a way helping one of our graduates launch his business that's going to kind of come also back and benefit us as a district, so.
I apologize, but Casey,
Velker,
Velker, okay.
Class of 2012.
there you go, class of 2012.
Correct.
Graduated with.
Right down there.
Right.
Graduated with something.
2012.
Yeah, class of 2012. So we're excited about this. I think we're gonna actually, he's already posted something out there on Facebook for an intern to begin working with us. I've not talked to him recently. Our goal is to have all of this, the brand guidelines and login or logos, to have that pretty well done by the time we start back to school in August. So that we're moving forward with it.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the contract with Captive Content.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Captivated Content.
I will second.
Which X's you need to make?
Yeah. So just to be clear on that, we're doing the brand guidelines, the design assistance, the employee spotlight, and the program spotlight. We are not doing a quarterly alumni spotlight and the intern.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0.
Oh, this is the. I gotta pick a crappy one. So.
That's about good delegation on my part.
Right, good delegation. So unfortunately, we did have some conversations with McAllister's and Bluebird that Bluebird has brought a supplemental invoice program, they've termed that really well, to the customers that have ordered buses. And so basically they've said that the supply chain, the price increase on all the supplies have increased substantially, that they can no longer honor the contract that we signed. And this is national. They've done this across all bus orders that are out there right now. The supplemental invoice program ranged from $5,000 to $10,000 per bus, depending on the order. Our buses came in at $8,500 per bus. And so we have the option right now. We could cancel our order completely and say, no, thank you. We could say, no, we're not going to pay the $8,500 extra per bus. Fill our order when you can. And so they're saying, you know, they can't tell us when that will be, because they will not fill the order until they can build it at the price they promised us. If we pay the $8,500 extra per bus, they are guaranteeing buses by February 2023, which we had hoped to have buses already. We had hoped to have buses back in March. And so we discussed, some of our different options, and we feel like the best option for us is to go ahead and cancel one bus. That would bring our price back down to what we said we were going to spend total, and we'll be okay with buses with that, and go ahead and move forward getting 11 buses instead of 12. So there's also the State Board of Accounts has now gotten involved, and the Attorney General's office has now gotten involved, because obviously this is a big deal with changing the price after procurement has occurred. And so there is going to be some sort of class action suit against this. And so what we are
I don't know if it's really a
suggesting,
class action suit. They're filing a grievance or a claim
correct,
with the
Correct.
Attorney General. And I don't know what all that entails. If we were going to file a class action or suit against them, we would do that on our own, and it would be costly with the district. So at this time, all we're doing is just participating in the complaint to State Board of Accounts and Attorney General.
So what we're asking tonight is also is that agree to pay the $8,500 extra per bus, but canceling one bus, and also working with our attorney, Mr. Josh Orem, to put an MOU together that states that if that complaint is successful, to get any money back, that we would also get that money back at that time.
And that was a recommendation from the procurement lady at the state to put that into the MOU, because she acted like, I mean, the way the state is shocked by this, because it blows the entire bidding process out of the water, more or less. I mean, you go through the bids wanting to secure, this is the cost we're going to have for the bus. So I think it's definitely something that I'd be surprised if in the end, after litigation and stuff, it doesn't end up coming back. So, and our understanding was that what we've heard is that Bluebird could possibly was struggling, could go under or something like that, and that was some of the reason behind this. So,
We haven't paid anything for it yet. We just have them under contract.
We have paid into our lease, but that lease money is sitting there ready to pay Bluebird when we get the buses. So if you look at, our books, we have made payments,
Right.
but it's sitting in the lease account.
But they don't have their policy on that.
Correct.
Is it common for this to happen?
No.
no, this has never happened before. Never. So that's why everybody's blown away. I mean, everybody's just absolutely blown away by this.
Are they gonna go bankrupt after they'll not get any of our money until we got the buses, is that right? Okay.
And some of the issue we ran into, if you remember correctly, the other companies that we could have gone with was Bluebird, of course, does diesel. I think Thomas does diesel, International does diesel. Everyone else does diesel. Bluebird is the only one that does gas. And the reason why we decided to go to gas was because it's cheaper, and also on the maintenance side, it was cheaper as well. So we were having some cost savings here. And the other thing I would also say too, that we found out was that if we would cancel our order, buses right now, if we were to go back out for new bids, they're 35% higher
On the base price of the bus.
Yeah, that's just base price.
And I tried to get you new bids to show, to kind of say, if you want to cancel and look at this, moving next year. But they're not even offering the bid site right now, because everybody's sort of just up in the air. And what the only thing they would give us was a base price. They won't even give us the options. So it's just really kind of a mess right now with supply chain, I guess.
And they're not gonna guarantee delivery.
And they're not gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this a national thing or a state thing? It's national that this is happening.
Yeah.
What was our 12th bus gonna be used for? Was it a route or?
We were replacing 12 diesel buses.
Okay.
So we were working to try to get rid of all of the diesel buses en route.
I understand.
So we would just be delayed a bit on that. We were going to have 2 diesel buses, I believe, still left after this round. So we'll have 3 that we'll still have, and we'll work
And they
to,
were all per routes, right?
all these buses are for routes, yes.
I was thinking we were gonna have one that would be like a backup or,
All the new ones would be for routes.
All right, so looking for a motion to approve the subtraction of one of our buses and the increased cost of $8,500 plus requests Mr. Oram to write an MOU that goes along with the state board of accounts.
It's really frustrating, but I don't see where we have much choice, so
Yeah.
I will make a motion to approve the request.
In a second,
I'll second.
motion by Mr. Oakley and second by Mrs. Will. Any other?
we have no other option that I see, is there? I mean, it's,
The only other option would be to outright cancel the contract, and then, like I said, then you're paying more.
and then we don't know when
We may
there
never
are
get a
any
bus.
buses be available or
Right.
And you're probably gonna go back to diesels, so.
what happens if they go bankrupt now, we don't even get the 12, right? We keep our money though, right?
We keep our money.
Yeah.
How long would the buses we have, how much longer do they have in service, or was this just strictly to kind of get rid of them for the diesel to gas?
You typically don't keep the buses longer than 12 years, and, I mean, we have some 12-year-old buses right now. So, I mean, we would have to get some allowances with the state if this, I mean, there are no buses to buy. So we would just keep working on but our expenses on maintenance and all that, continues to go up because we're just fixing old buses, so. And the diesel buses are the parts are more expensive. Their oil changes are like 400% the cost of a gas oil change. So it's just, the cost would remain, continue to be there.
Yeah, for this or for that?
Yeah.
I can't see them staying in business after doing something like this. I just can't see.
The problem is,
I
like
would never
Michelle and I,
want to deal with them again.
like Michelle and I were talking, who's gonna take the hit for it's McAllister. It's not gonna be Bluebird, it's gonna be McAllister, because that's who we work through, you know what I'm saying? So, so you're gonna be, like when we go to McAllister now, let's say we go to the next bid, we're gonna be more, are you sure this is the price? You know what I mean? Or do we even continue to stay with them? Do we go to another representative of Bluebird or whoever it might be?
We're not a big school. It's $93,000 they just jumped up on us.
Yeah.
It's the,
That's what
yeah,
I'm
it's
saying.
the
When you
cost
look
of
at-
one of the buses.
Yeah, when you look at districts, there was about 5 to 6, I'm trying to think of it, let's about 5 to 6 districts across the state of Indiana that was purchasing buses from Bluebird. I want to say there was one that was purchasing about 20, I think. So I mean, there are, you start thinking across the United States, and you get into districts like in Texas and Florida and California that, I mean, they could be buying 100 buses maybe.
There are a lot of grants out. I did look into this option to see if this was an option I could bring you tonight, to go to electric. There are lots of grants out there to push schools towards going, towards the electric bus. Unfortunately, the grants are, they kind of have written so that it's looks like a lot of money, right? Because we're talking about $100,000 per bus. But the way that they've written a grant, if you're a priority school, which is typically high poverty, which we probably would not be in that category. They don't tell you the numbers, but we probably would not be in the category. So we would be eligible for about a 1/3 of the cost of the bus. And the e-buses are $500,000. And so when I asked the question, I said, well, they're so much more costly. Do they last longer? And they actually last only about 8 years, not 12 years. So, and then you also are looking at completely changing your grid and making sure you have the electric and all of that. So that was not a viable option to bring either, so.
The other thing is they only hold 70 miles to a charge.
Yeah.
So we would most likely be charging all of our buses in the middle of the day, and we couldn't use any of them to go on ECA trips. But it's a
That's why you
viable
didn't-
option, guys.
That's why you didn't get that option.
They don't have anything for diesel electric, do they? Because I know some of
Did
the
not get
colleges
any.
and stuff like that, they go to the diesel electric so that you have
Hybrid.
300, 400 miles of travel.
I have not heard that.
Anything else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0.
I know, not my fault. The next item up is our Edmonton contract. So if you're familiar with Apex, Apex has been our curriculum vendor for any online courses that we might offer for credit recovery, mainly credit recovery, or students that maybe want to take some classes in the summer that they approve through the high school that they could take through Apex to add additional credits. So Apex and Edmonton have merged companies, and they're moving all of the Apex courses to the Edmonton platform. So Apex's courses had been updated, the high school and middle school courses had been updated more recently than Edmonton's high school and middle school curriculum. So they have merged together and they're moving everything by next summer to the Edmonton platform. We took a look at the pricing and looked at the platform and kind of just said, hey, let's go ahead and get onto the Edmonton platform. We'll still have access to all the great courses. So this is just a switch to Edmonton, still the same idea of the online course curriculum to use for credit recovery. This may be something that we would use in the Norseman Academy, the alternative program, and would be something that would use it as well, and just available for students as needed. I don't think I had it on here, but I think it was like a $300 increase. It wasn't a substantial increase to what we paid last year for Apex.
So looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the move from Apex to
Edmonton.
Yeah, however you say that.
I'll second
Have a motion by Mrs. Will, seconded by Mr. Colley. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries 4-0.
Next up this evening, we've got some professional leave requests. Amy, Shannon, and Michelle are going to be going to the WELL conference. This is through the principals or superintendents association is women in education. That's kind of what this is focused on, and so we're recommending that. Elise, as you know, is our new special education director, and she's going to be attending the new director training at Avon. Mr. Fisher is finishing up his, not full year, but his first year as principal at the high school. So him and I talked. Anali is a great program done by the Indiana Association of School Principals, and I strongly encourage him to sign up for this. And this is a program that will meet a couple of times throughout the school year and support him in kind of understanding leadership and developing a vision and a strategic plan for the school out there. And then also, we are required to have a individual on staff with our special education for nonviolent crisis intervention training. We have to provide this training. It's CPI, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, is what it is. And so Elise is going to go to that training to be able to provide training to our staff here. Our staff is, I think, probably a majority of our special education staff and has already been trained on it, but yet they have to go through renewal about every 2 years. And so so that's why we have to have Elise trained for this. So anyway, we bring forward those professional development requests this evening.
For a motion?
Make a motion to approve the professional leave request.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Oakley, seconded by Mr. Colley. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Before we get into our strategic plan tonight, I just want to give you a little bit of good news. Of course, our girls' state softball, the journey was just fantastic. And once again, the community we live in, we are just truly blessed. I just really think we are. And just the support there that we had both last week in semi-state, and the number of people that attended that, and then coming into this week. I had the because I'm the superintendent, I got the honor to go up into the press box and look down, and it was just really awesome. I took a couple of pictures and posted on Facebook of just our sea of red that was there, and it was just cool. It really was. To see all of our people that were there and cheering our team on, and I think we're gonna go back and do it again next year. That's just, I think our girls can do that. So we want to congratulate them. The thing is Sean and I were talking a little bit about this. When you stop and think about the number of athletes that never step foot into a state competition, I mean, just making it there is an honor. And I think that we are definitely going to invite the girls to the July board meeting to recognize them. But I just wanted to shout out to them.
Lindsay Gentile.
That's what I was getting ready to say. That's the next one. Lindsay Gentile went to state for high jump as well. And once again, just an awesome experience for her. Jeff was in last week and we were talking a little bit about it. And, it's an overwhelming experience as well. But yet she, just something that was just very, very very proud of and representing us. She didn't hit her goal, but definitely represented North Posey in a great way, and I think broke school record as well. So definitely a great honor there. And then our clay target group this past weekend when we were up there at Purdue, they were competing at state, and I want to say I saw 7th. Is that right? Yeah, 7th place in the state. So definitely a good showing there, and I want to congratulate all the kids that participated in that. So the other thing too, just kind of keep the board aware of is that Mr. Wallace and I talked construction class towards the end of the year. We were talking about building a lean-to. I was going to have a lean-to built, and Mr. Wallace said, well, we can do that in the construction class. So I have funded that. It wasn't free grant, but I funded it. And so that's, they did that for me. I very much appreciate it. I like to have kids have real world experiences. And as you know, in the past, they've just kind of built a doghouse. So this was something that was real world. And Brad said that we already have, I think, either 3 or 4 orders for next year from our community. So this is a great opportunity for our kids to really begin doing stuff for our community and getting out there and stuff. So just kind of wanted to make the board aware of that. But other than that, anything else good news wise? Principals, any good news? I will say this group of people over here, this group of people over here are fantastic. We have a great group of administrators. As I've often said, this is the reason why I came back to this district, is because of these people over here and having the honor to work with them. They love our kids. They love our staff. Each and every day, they are servant leaders in their buildings. And I cannot say enough about these people and how much they do for our kids in this district. And we are blessed to have them. And, it was exciting this afternoon as I was kind of looking back through the strategic plan, because them, as well as groups of teachers, have been working on this over the past couple of months, and just the ideas and thoughts that they have to really take a great district and make it even better. And so, but we had a great end of the school year. Every building that you went into, we were jazzed with them. Energizing our kids, feeding them sugar, and then sending them home, for the summer. So it was great, but it was just so much fun and energy. It was good to see that back in our schools after COVID. And I just want to thank them for a great school year. They did a great job. I want to thank also Sean and Amy for graduation. That is probably one of the most visual parts of our community, and I thought we did a great job. There are some places that we're going to improve at for next year, and we're already working on that. But it was just a great night and a great way to celebrate the excellence of our district. So I want to thank both of them. Okay, strategic plan.
Well, I wanted to just mention, I was out at South Terrace when the seniors done their walkthrough. I thought that was just an absolutely tremendous idea.
Yeah.
And I know this is taking more time and everything, but it would be so neat if we could have let them go to the gym and let the kids go in and just interact with them a little bit more. And maybe have one or two of them talk about when I was at South Terrace or things like that. I think it was just sensational.
And you know, another neat thing too is we had teachers and aides in tears because once they leave the elementary school, sometimes they don't ever see those kids again. And for them to be walking through with their cap and gown on, it just really helped our connection with our elementary teachers to know that this kid that maybe I struggled with, you know, made it and graduated. And so it was a neat day. It was a really neat day. Okay. So we've been working on the strategic plan. Each of these ladies and gentlemen over here have taken over different areas. So Amy, if you want to click through. So we're going to start off with goal number 1. And if you remember correctly, what we've done here is we've taken each of our goals. These were the goals that you guys developed. And then we've looked at objectives. We looked at success measures. We've also taken those objectives and we've connected them here in the next slide or so to what are high priorities, so that you can see that we've tried to connect back to what you guys originally said in our meetings. So, and this is for input. So as we go through this evening, you know, provide input because we want this to be something that everyone can buy into and be a part of. Are you up first, Shannon?
I am up first.
All
I don't
right.
know how you knew.
All right. So I took on our first goal, which there's the light placement of these are pretty difficult. The first goal is that we will create a dynamic and innovative educational experience driven by a whole student approach. So that's pretty big. That attacks a lot of different things. So what we wanted to look at, one of our objectives was successfully implementing a curriculum map K through 12. This year, we started with English language arts. Next year, we will continue the English language arts as far as implementation and then tweaking it throughout the year. But also, we're going to map out our math. And then as far as secondary, the science is going to be mapped. And then the following year, if I remember correctly, will be the other content areas as well. So just the curriculum map, just so you are aware of what that is. It is a plan taking all of the standards, not the book, but the standards, and mapping out when do we need to cover this. And before we cover this, what prerequisites do the kids need to have? So we have to make sure we've covered this. So it's breaking it down. That way everybody knows that we, in every building, every grade level, every classroom, are covering the same material. Not in the same way in every classroom, but the same core material. So we wanted to first address that so that we have continuity throughout all of the buildings. Our measurement, of course, would be the implementation of those maps. They're going to be fluid. They're going to change. They're going to move every year, which is what we want. That's how it's intended to be. Our second objective is developing a culture of rigor. Now, that is also pretty big, and I think it's going to explain it a little bit more in the next slide. But just attacking every single content area and making it more rigorous, making sure that our kids are offered instruction that will enable them to compete at the collegiate level and everything the way that we know that they can and the way that we want them to. One of the success measures would be enrollment in dual credit and AP courses increasing. So kids having a pathway that is not, and I'm going to use the wrong words when it comes to high school, I'm sorry. But I may not use pathways correctly, and I apologize for that. However, these kids taking those classes, not just taking entry-level classes and getting through high school just to get through high school, challenging them and creating a curriculum that they can take that encourages them to be more rigorous and show more grit and persevere through everything. Support and grow mental health supports for staff and students. Our success measure would be establish a mental health support plan for students and staff. This one, we don't have the plan yet, so I can't tell you what we're going to do to meet this. We want to take in the next couple of years time to survey and the students and the staff and find out what do they need, because we don't know what they need. We have some ideas, but we don't know exactly what they need. But we do know that they need something, and we want to be able to provide it to them. Then our last objective would be to develop a K-12 college and career readiness initiative influenced by our STEM approach, or by a STEM approach. That is, we've become STEM certified in every single building. There is a heavy STEM presence in all of our buildings. That is how we intend to prepare our kids for college in every single content area, even the arts. It's the same sort of grit and perseverance that we want to instill in them in every single content area. Hit it. Can you go to the next one? Look at you. All right. So our high priorities, basically this just ties each one of these focused objectives into the high priorities that you all identified. And implementing the curriculum mapping is going to increase or enhance the student experience, and it's investing in our teachers and administrators, giving them the time. The teachers, it was pretty intense, especially at the start of the school year. It was pretty intense, those PD days. Once they got into it, though, then they always saw the value in it. They always saw that it was just a lot. And the one thing that I did hear was, can you imagine if we had to do this and we didn't have these days and we didn't have this person facilitating it, like how difficult and overwhelming it would have been then. So definitely investing in the teachers and administrators. Developing a culture of rigor would also enhance the student experience and invest in the teachers, as well as growing the mental health, enhancing the student experience, investing in the teachers, but also fostering strong relationships amongst everyone. And then our college and career readiness initiative is going to be focused by every single one of the priorities, also including or adding maximizing resources as well. All right, so this is kind of our 3-year, I'm not going to go through every single one of these because I've already touched on most of it, but just hitting some of the highlights on our actual plan that we have so far. We are, like I said, we're going to continue the curriculum mapping in all of the content areas. By the end of all of this, we will have all classes, arts, everything mapped out. As far as our culture of developing a culture of rigor, this is the one that I'm most excited about. What we're going to do, our group, my committee is made up of myself, Tracy Newcomer for the elementary, Beth McCutcheon from the high school, and Laura Hall from the junior high. And then also Michelle. We've met and we've discussed, you may have heard everyone talk about depth of knowledge questions over the years. The teachers definitely have. That's been a conversation that we've had. But it's not been a real focus as of the last, I don't know, probably 3 years, probably as much. We talk about it, but we haven't really focused on improving our depth of knowledge questions. And that's not, the important thing to know about that is it's not about asking harder questions. It's about the processes that the kids go through in the questions that you're asking. So that's what we want to teach. We want to really spend some time and help the teachers with. I, for one, have a lot of new people in my building that I know have not had the same depth of knowledge training that the other teachers do. So what we want to do, we are going to put together a folder of depth of knowledge resources for our teachers. And that way the teachers will have it shared with them. They'll be able to go to it. They can add to it. They can do whatever they need. We want to pilot peer observations in classrooms. Some teachers are already doing this, but we want to do it more district-wide, making sure that they know it's okay to go into a classroom and observe, and it's okay for them to come into your classroom, because sometimes that's hard for teachers to to do as well. We also want to administer the panoramic survey for grades 3 through 12. Who was that through? Michelle?
Panorama is. the
Just
company.
Panorama is the company. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we want to send that survey out to our grades 3 through 12th graders, and then our second year be able to use that, look at that data and see what it gives us, and then make a plan for that for then. Something else that our teachers have talked about doing on this team is making just short PD videos to put in that resource file of what depth of knowledge is. We are doing a depth of knowledge study just within our group, so that we are all on the same page, so that we can disseminate that information out to the teachers. As far as supporting mental health for our staff and students, we need to identify opportunities and audit our current practices. We want to use encompassing education to provide trauma-informed training, which a lot of our teachers have gotten, but also then through our surveys, determine what it is that they need to, and then make a plan from there. Developing our college and career readiness initiative. A lot of these things have already happened, or at least already on way. Partnering with SIEC to hire a CTE director. We've already done that. That's Jody Rankin. And she's doing really, really awesome work. Developing a college and career program with NICS companies for our high school students. I know that Sean and Amy and Michelle and Mr. Galvin and Jody have been talking a lot with them about creating a program, building additional pathways. Sean has been doing a lot of research and everything on building different programs for our high school students to make it the most rigorous and the best experience that they can have. Our high ability committees, we've been talking, we're going to revamp our high ability committees and really take those committees and look at revamping our programs. It looks different at the elementary school than it does at the junior high and the high school, and that's just the nature of the beast. It's easier to do things at the elementary schools. We want to develop a sustainable plan for obtaining early college credentials for our high school. That's something that Sean and Amy are working on. That's a lengthy process. That's not something that will happen just like that. But that is a focus that we have. Educating our junior high and high school, or junior high and elementary school, on these credentials, because it's important. Just like Mr. Colley said, when those seniors walk through those elementary schools, it's important for our teachers at the elementary schools to know what these kids are working towards at the high school. It's also important for our teachers to also know what our high school teachers are working on in that building as well. So we want to make sure that everybody knows what the plan is. And then we want to develop district-wide career exploration plan. There are things happening all over all of the buildings. There are career days that are happening. There are field trips that kids are going on, and Jody Rankin is working on all kinds of different plans as well. But we want to have a district plan. I think that's all I know, which was a lot. All right. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? I didn't give him an opportunity for questions. I'm just jumping right up. Just don't throw that.
I don't think I can do that.
Oh.
All right, not that.
25
I don't think so. Goal 2, we will inspire a culture of investing in our professionals to impact learning and innovation. And really, it's 2 parts. It's both the PD of what we give them, as well as how do we attract and then retain the high quality candidates, keeping our good teachers here and learning them. We don't know how we're going to trade off yet.
Yeah. See, you were all by yourself. We're trying to figure out how we
We're
split
still
it.
working on
Sorry.
that.
I'm a Lone
This
Ranger.
is one of those, if we just go through, following Shannon's example here, the build leadership capacity across that district. Our success measure is going to be the number of teachers seeking leadership opportunities. This is really all about professional development. Goal 2. How do we develop our teachers? How do we bring quality candidates here And yet, at the end of the day, the whole reason we're developing our professionals, encouraging the leadership opportunities, is to better serve the needs of our kids. That's why we do what we do. So it's kind of it's not a tricky goal, but there's multiple facets to it because we have to meet our educators' needs in order to meet the needs of our students at the same time. So that culture of learning, how do we establish yearly professional, or having an established yearly professional development plan? Once more, we have a plan for next year. What we're going to do with that is still up in the air, as I came in halfway through the year, as I think this past year was. But as we know, the state's kind of thrown that into question as well as to whether or not we can have those days. And so you'll see when we get to our third slide, there's a lot of gaps in ours because that is something that isn't quite lined up yet. Are we going to have those days? And if not, then how do we go back and hit these goals again without that set aside time? Okay, you can go to the next slide.
Again, on the high priorities, provide intentional and relevant professional development to enhance student learning. And again, jumping back a little bit with that as far as what that leadership needs to look like. We're not just trying to train our best teachers to become principals because, well, we don't really want to go anywhere. And there's only 4 of us, so we don't want to. Point made.
It was in the air.
The reality is, in all seriousness, we do want to give those leadership opportunities, and that can look a lot different in a lot of different ways. We had a struggle in our moderate room. Well, we had a teacher step in, giving her that opportunity and reporting to the principals and working through some of those things. So there's a lot of, I guess we're looking at leadership and what that looks like and how we can fuss at that in different ways. So I just wanted to make that point. And keeping our 4 jobs safe. Develop a culture of learning, provide intentional and relevant professional development to enhance student learning. We talked about it with Shannon as far as those days, they are vital for us. Really planning on what that looks like in the future, this next year, what are our needs? And we had some surveys go out. One survey really dealt with more of where our teachers are, what can they teach, what areas, how many years of service. And then on the other side of that, we looked at school culture and school climate. Again, culture is more of that 3 to 5 year, how things are going in the building, what's the mood. And then the climate is more can change day to day. State mandates come down, the climate can change. So looking at those things as far as how we're going to keep or retain our good teachers.
Okay, that next one. This is where we've got some gaps in here because so much of our goal dealt with baseline measurements. Before we know where we can go forward with professional development, we have to know where we are. Some of that information Steve mentioned, we had 2 different surveys. The first one was really just an assessment of human capital. But who do we have right now? I had 82 respondents, I think, to that. Amy was wonderful with providing me the rest of the nuts and bolts. How many years has someone been in our district? What are they licensed to teach? And then there were questions in there that dealt more with, do you have an interest in becoming credentialed to do dual credit? Do you have an interest in other things? So we had that survey. And then the second survey was our culture and climate. And it dealt more with, how do you feel here in our district? We had a question that dealt with, I'm proud to say that I work at North Posey. We had a question, I believe our students feel safe on our campus. Questions like that would give us some indication as to what type of professional development. So if you see like the building leadership capacity, I'm gonna come back to that one last. I forget that's touch screen. The develop a culture of learning, the opportunity of that professional development calendar. What is that gonna have? Well, what do our teachers need? So that's where that assessment initially came in, so that we saw a breakdown of our teachers, and we're pretty even across the board as far as the number of teachers in that 0 to 6, 0 to 7 years of education, of experience, versus the ones who are on the top end. Our numbers are pretty evenly matched. Well, what a teacher with 1 or 2 years of experience needs is going to be drastically different. or could be drastically different than what a veteran teacher needs, depending on the topic. And it's going to flip flop. If you're asking me about technology within the classroom, there's been a whole lot that's come about since I was in the classroom as an instructional, leader. That's changed. So what we offer is going to vary according to that.
One of the things I'd also like to add,
Yeah.
the first year teacher, Mr. Galvin, added the mentor program. We've even added some other things in the junior high as far as having that person walk through that first year. There's a lot of people leaving our profession the first couple of years. It's just too much. And I think that's something that was really needed. And I think you really headed it up as well. But it's something that we just need to continue to grow and work on, because I think that's going to be the difference as far as retaining these good young teachers before they burn out, leave our profession.
Yeah. The attracting and retaining high quality candidates, a lot of that is tied to the opportunities we give them as professionals, but a lot of that also goes into our culture and climate survey. Do they feel appreciated? Do they want to be a part of what we have going on at North Posey? And all of this, comes back to the marketing plan and everything else we have going on. Do they want to be here? And that was important because some of those surveys, depending on the level, we're doing a little bit more at the high school level. We don't have a PTA. We don't have a group that comes in and regularly takes care of our staff at a high school level. So we've worked this spring, and that's one of the things we'll continue to do. How do we then show our teachers that we appreciate them? And sometimes it's as small as that, but that goes a long way to keeping people happy. The last component, I'm going to jump back up to the building leadership capacity. Like Steve said, it's not just about encouraging people to continue on to become principals. We stuck in the possibility of assessing and developing professional learning communities down on the end. That is a really big topic, but it's within professional learning communities where our teachers come together, not only to talk about how to best meet the academic needs of our students, but it's also through that they can gain some of those leadership opportunities, whether they're a representative from their building on a larger PLC district-wide, whether that's within smaller things. And that is, PLCs are a huge can of worms to open, but it's worth looking at. So once we did our baseline and we looked at what we have in place for next year, which is just looking at filling out that professional development and giving teachers what they need, it's also looking down the road at we really need to start digging into it. It is not going to be something that we can do in 1 year to say, hey, this is a great idea, let's just do it. There's going to take a little bit more. Shannon mentioned within their group doing a study of DOK, of that depth of knowledge. Well, that's kind of what we're going to look at. If we're going to go the route of PLCs, then that's going to have to be something that we really look at, because if we're going to do it, we want to do it right. How are we going to structure that and make sure that it's giving our teachers opportunities?
And some of these surveys, I feel that could be warranted to give every year. And as we were talking about them, I thought you might like some of the questions we gave. And this is teachers' perspective, but one of the questions, students at this school feel safe on school property. It was 96.3% felt they either agreed or strongly agreed that they feel safe. So I think that's a great one. I spend a great deal of time dealing with students' social and emotional challenges. That's something that's where we need to look at, because I think 60% feel that they are spending a lot of time. And I mean, there's two ways you can look at that. They're spending the time and they're understanding it. They may have answered no because they feel they don't have enough training to handle these things. So that's definitely something during our PD that we're going to be looking at.
And I do think we've got Encompassing coming in to do some SEL. It's kind of the big hot button topic or word that you're hearing a lot of in education, is that meeting the whole student need through that social emotional learning as well. And that is on our plan beginning this year. And then where we go from that will depend on how much we accomplish this year and really sort of the hunger of the staff to learn more about it.
another one that I liked. I look forward to coming to work every day, 87%, but according to this, we're going to lose 2 teachers. Sorry.
Oh, heads up.
Tell them to do it quickly.
Okay, so
Any
that's
questions?
kind of ours in a nutshell.
Who was on your committee?
Oh,
Stacy Bogle,
Mhm. Rochelle Belt.
Rochelle Belt,
Casey Thomas
Casey Thomas.
and Deb Whitfield
Thank you.
and us.
As far as the mentor teachers go, I assume you're looking at effective or highly effective teachers. Are you also looking at teachers who have taught within the district for a certain number of years or who have just taught for a certain number of years?
A little of both. Stacy Vogel was one of my mentor teachers, fabulous teacher. I mean, yes, someone that I think that may struggle as a teacher just because they have a lot of years in, I'd shy away from.
Right.
And, I've had more in the last, this past year than I've had in the last 12 years. I think that with the buyout being a big part of that. But, we had 5 teachers, and even before the corporation was looking at it, during our PL 221 meeting, we felt it was a need in the junior high. We'll do something with our staff, and we're like, oh yeah, we did tell our new teachers. We just took for granted everybody knows these things. So it was really helpful that they had that one person to go to, or that person, oh, we're going to have a fire drill. We need to tell them what that looks like, before things happen, and they just kind of wing it their first time through. So it has been great. Like I said, I think that's something we definitely need to build, or to continue to grow, I should
Do
say.
you know what our retention percentage is right now?
I probably have it in paperwork somewhere, but off the top
Just
of my
right
head, I
now.
don't know.
It's a little bit skewed.
Yeah.
Right.
This year's
Don't
excellent.
answer that question out loud.
This year's actually been a little bit skewed
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
the last 2
Right.
years. We're going to have less this year. So last year looked awful. This year looks great. So there's a lot of factors with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or we might have the 2, but.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, or the 2 that's.
You know what building those 2 came from? That'd be great.
North Element, no. I'm kidding.
The other thing that was really interesting, of the people that responded when we asked, when we talk about encouraging teachers, there was a time in education once they stopped really encouraging staff to do pay raises. When the state changed that for master's programs, you saw sort of a lull in teachers going on, because we're pretty busy during the school year just giving our kids what they need, right? Going back and doing for ourselves sometimes can feel selfish, even though it's not, because it takes away from what you're already doing. We had respondents, and 25 of the 82 initial respondents are already working on something. Maybe that's a master's program, maybe that's licensure towards another certification, but 25 were doing something. So that's another focus, is to look at how do we continue to encourage our staff, as busy as they are, to continue that process of learning and getting better. And if we can do that through offering professional development, then that's huge.
A key on that one was too, we talked in that group about not you can overstretch the brain, right? And so if over half of our team is in advanced learning, we don't want to also be stretching them so far in our PD sessions and causing additional new thought, new idea. Maybe we are, when we have a large group of our teachers in advanced learning, advanced courses, and maybe our PD during those time is a little softer, if you will, on the rigor. So.
Thank you, guys.
I think Mr. Fisher and I may.
Yeah. I didn't
The
know we were
Top
supposed to
Gun,
choreography.
the Top Gun theme that they were playing when they were awarding the medals at the softball.
Yeah. That was all.
Got me.
It certainly was.
So goal 3, we will embrace community involvement for engagement in district success. I think Mr. Fisher and I may have thrown down for this one because we both feel so passionate about community involvement. Our community members are Amber Oakley, Aaron Stump, Kim Wassmer, and
Right.
Brian Wilson
Wayland Shank.
and Waylon Shank, yes, and Sean and I. So we'll talk to you. We have a couple of focused objectives to reach our goals. Some of them look like they're taking off out in front of us by hiring the district intern. It's in here as part of our goals, so you'll see how it kind of works within this goal. One of our objectives is to increase student opportunities in the community. So basic student opportunities can look different, and we're going to talk about all of those things. Some that are in work-based learning experiences. Some of those might be service opportunities that come up, but how do we increase student opportunities in the community?
Oh, you want me to go ahead on the
Yeah.
bottom row?
Heidi has to ask for my permission.
It is. I will add a couple of things, success measures for the top row on work on WBL. Work-based learning, we're kind of in initial stages of trying to build that out at the high school level. And so what that looks like right now is might be a student that has all the credits they need to graduate, but they have got some availability in the schedule to maybe go out and do some working in the community. We've got a course title number we can use to do that. It works for the students. It's really good for them. It's really good for us because they're in a full schedule. But what we'd really like to see, that's kind of the introductory stage, but what we would really like to see is when we have students that are in a pathway, a career pathway, and at the end of that course sequence, that 3-course sequence, that they're out working in that field, and that really starts to look good. It's really, if it was Monopoly, it'd be the difference between landing on a space with nothing or landing on a space that had 6 houses for us as a district. So, I mean, whenever you really think about the value that it would bring to the district and the student, that's a big deal. But like Aaron said, in terms of service opportunities, when we went back and thought about United Way Day of Caring a little bit and what students were involved in those things, what can we do to get students K through 12 involved to where we're really giving back to the community with service projects, not just, we don't want to, we want to take the position and be able to bring value back to our community. So that was that. And then at the bottom, of course, we're going to promote the school district to our community, and our corporations obviously making a major investment in making that happen. I know they've been talking about that for a long time. It's been a long time coming, so we appreciate getting that approved tonight. And then obviously it's going to come with that, it's going to be an increase in the number of media communications that we release to the community. And we wanted to keep that as general as we possibly could, because we want to be able to throw a lot of things out and not really pigeonhole ourselves into one type of communication. So, yeah.
I think this is just kind of reiterating how they're connected to your high priorities again. Obviously, if we increase student opportunities in our community, we're going to enhance their experience. And then at the same time, we're fostering relationships with everyone, people that are not students in our community. So I think those go well with that objective.
Yes, we go down to the bottom where we're back to promoting the high priorities that match up with that particular objective would be to enhance the student experience, of course, foster strong relationships among all, and to maximize resources.
Okay, we have our target years out, built out 3 years like everyone else does. This year, for our baseline data, we did do an audit of our current community partnerships and current service projects. So the way we did the audit was we sent a school survey out to all stakeholders employed with us to kind of know what everybody's offering, because we hear about all these cool things that everybody's doing, but we don't have like a cataloged list. And the committee worked together to put the survey together, and we sent it out. Brian sent that out for us, and we got some really good data. So now we have an audit of our current, what we're already doing.
Yeah, we had 68 respondents on that audit, and just, you're not gonna be able to see any of this because it's tiny. I can hardly read it from here, but it just gives us a nice look at exactly what was listed. And what we did with this survey, we won't have as good of data in terms of percentages of who's using what, but we can go through and really look at the comprehensive list because we left the fields open to where folks can type in. So it's going to be a little more labor intensive to be able to pull the data out, but we can see everything that everybody's doing that responded. So that was really nice.
And one thing too, I think we'll learn from that audit is where we're disconnected sometimes between building levels, especially between like 6th and 7th grade and 8th and 9th, is we'll be able to do some crossovers with situations that kids are experiencing and say, okay, well, we know now they're doing this in the 5th and 6th grade, so we can build on that. We're not connecting. I feel like we don't do a good job of connecting those gaps or bridging those experiences, so the kids don't see that connection sometimes. The audit really helped us. We can see where everybody's at right now and how to bridge those. So if we keep going across, probably, we obviously just plan to increase the community partnerships that we already have. I have always, we live in a small town. Maximizing your resources in this small town is key, and not to beat them like the same one over and over again. I mean, if you can count how many times Mixed Companies has been said in this meeting, there are other resources out there that are very valuable for our students. And I think intentionally working on those partnerships is a goal of our committee.
No doubt. If you look at the bottom row, that's the one on the media communications. Fortunately, we've already, tonight took a big step for the year 1 target of hiring a marketing communications professional. And I know that we're going to continue to work on getting that to be an intern that's placed with our district later. What we did with this, because there are some, if you look at that, it says evaluate and then continue to evaluate. It's really a continuous improvement exercise on the bottom row. So we chose to break it down into kind of 3 sections. So if you go up to the development, communications, and marketing plan, we hope that that's going to come with our consultant in our intern. And then we're obviously going to implement that plan, and then we're going to continue to approve that plan. We're going to hire that individual, and we're going to evaluate the progress of the initiatives that person puts in place. We'll probably evaluate how well the intern's working for us, how much bang for our buck and value we're getting from that relationship with the intern. And then we're going to obviously continue to improve everything that we're doing there. And then lastly, we're going to take a look at the master list of all the opportunities we have in the community. And like she said, we're going to take, it's almost like, what we've been trying to do with Mix is kind of R&D for everything we want to do with everybody in the community. So whenever we do that, then we'll obviously go back and identify other areas, and we'll continue to develop those areas. So it truly will be a Six Sigma style continuous improvement exercise. Mm-hmm.
So kind of ingraining, that type of servant leadership and work-based experience that's connected to your community to shape our kids. I think it's going to set them ahead of the game regardless of where they go. If they leave the community, they're still going to have skills that they will not learn in a math class. And then also feel proud and connected to their community in the end. So good goal.
So and I've got the last go, which is we will responsibly manage or our budget, operations, and enrollment. And so this one's just mainly looking at our budget, our finances, as well as our resources. This could be human capital. It could be also our buildings or schools and those kinds of things. And so mainly what I wanted to do is really what you try to do is that as you begin to implement this strategic plan, is you take your budgets and you try to align that to your strategic plan. Because what happens is much like we've said before, if you aren't putting your money where your mouth is, then nothing's going to get done. And so really what we want to make sure of is as these things begin to really take place, and we begin to say, okay, this is the PD we're going to implement. Okay, where are we going to bring that in within our budget? And so the first kind of focused objective is align the education fund to maximize impact on the strategic plan. And so some success measures, train school administrators to maximize their school level budgets, develop a communication platform, and develop a 3-year plan highlighting. Align the operations fund to maximize impact on the strategic plan. This one here, which is once again kind of looking at that communication platform, how we develop that, and that 5-year facilities maintenance and improvement plan. And then identifying underutilized resources is kind of looking at what other resources do we have out there that we can pull in and stuff. This kind of shows you where each of those are connected to on the high priorities. So you can see all of these really fit in all those high priorities as we address those. So then really kind of then taking those and saying, okay, well, how are we going to do this? What are our measurables? So aligning that education fund to maximize impact on the strategic plan. Kind of measure of success is increasing the cash balance of the education fund by 6% over the next 3 years. Now, as you know, this is a difficult situation. As you kind of have seen that cash flow for this year, we're eating into that cash flow a little bit as we go through this year because of the pay raises we gave. So how are we going to do that? Well, we do that by maximizing our expenditures. How do we try to cut down those expenditures? How do we look at how we're spending money? The other thing would also be is that can we increase enrollment? Okay, so if we can increase that enrollment, that also generates those funds to come in. And the reason why I kind of said that 2% cash balance is you kind of look at that and you can kind of say, what are we wanting to try to do for our teachers and for our staff as we move forward? Well, we want to try to give them pay raises each year. So a good way to try to do that is to keep up with about a 2% increase, as we go forward and stuff. So that was kind of the reason why I settled on that 2%. The communication platform, I think it's important because the thing is that as we begin to talk about like our building plans and things like that, the public needs to understand, well, how are we currently spending our resources? And like, as we've talked several times, communication is definitely a key element that you guys have challenged me with as I've come in. But how do we communicate that to our district? We have our newspaper, we have social media, but what's the best way for the public to understand what are the challenges that we're facing as we move forward? So really working with our public relations, once again, to say, what are some things that we can show our financial health to our district? We can demonstrate to them of how effectively we are using the monies that we currently have, and do we need more monies to be able to do things more effectively as we move forward and stuff? How is that money going to be used? Lots of times when I've talked to other principals or other superintendents in other counties across the state, and they're wanting to pass a referendum or something like that, but they have no basis for that referendum. How's that money going to be spent? Why are you really asking for that money? And it's like, well, we just need more money for this. Well, you need to have a very specific plan on what is that going to go towards? How's that money going to be spent or something like that? So really demonstrating that and communicating that to our public. And then over the next 3 years, just increasing that education fund budget percentage toward that strategic plan. So really, once again, kind of like on our second go, is looking at our current expenses and saying, well, how do our current expenses align with where we are on our strategic plan? And then really then determining, can we increase that expenditure, that percent of expenditures towards a strategic plan? Can we really focus those priorities and truly try to begin to pump more money into that as we move forward and stuff? The next one is mainly, the next one is kind of a lot of the same thing. It's looking at the operations fund this time though, instead of the education fund. Once again, increasing that education fund or that operations fund cash balance by 2% each year. Current balance, this year was $498,418.86. Once again, same kind of situation of kind of sharing that financial health with the district, with our community. And then over the next 3 years, kind of once again, strategically kind of focusing that money within the operations fund towards our strategic plan and how to address those needs in there. Then the last one is just really looking at that underutilized resources, external and internal. Increase the percentage of grant funds towards strategic planned initiatives. Really looking through at our plans, and Michelle and I have been trying to be strategic and think through where are we headed as a district and how can we focus those grant funds to really maximize them and to be able to achieve the goals that we want. And like we've said quite often, you know what you're getting for your property with your property taxes and your operations. You know what you're getting in your education fund. The only way to kind of have that difference, to make that difference, is through grants. And so going out and capturing as many of those grants as we want to, or that we can, to be able to put those new initiatives in place and stuff. Increasing the number of, increase the number. Amy just wants me to shut up. I know what it is. She wants me to shut up. Okay. Increase the number of students remaining in our district and are transferring into the district. That transfer report that we were talking about earlier. How can we continue to hold on to those kids that are maybe leaving our district? How can we attract other districts to come into us as well? And really just establishing that baseline and then saying, okay, well, how can we increase that? And so that's why kind of those year 1, year 2 targets aren't out there yet. And then as well, we've talked a little bit about, Sean was talking a little bit about those capstone kinds of experiences and stuff through our pathways. Well, that feeds into that 30A report, which is our career technical education funding. And that's definitely a part of our basic grant. So coming back and just saying, looking at that 30A report and then saying, are there additional pathways that we can build out? Are there some additional pathways that we can, add some classes to get some additional funding? Those types of things of how can we do that as we move forward and stuff. So, so mine was just mainly dealing with money, was what it was, money and facilities, so.
Well, I wasn't going to.
So I just really want to, I was sitting back there listening to my people tonight, and I was just so excited of the work that they've done. Michelle kind of told me, she goes, I'm going to go to the different groups. You stay out of this, and let's just kind of see what they do. And I mean, I was pumped and excited after I listened to all of them tonight. But we just want to open it up for questions, input that you guys have. I mean, as well as, was this the thought process when we started down this road, and where you really wanted to see us go to?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that I wrote down going through this entire process, except for your goal, a lot of this hinges on that professional development and the scheduling. And the question is, how can we emphasize to our state legislators that these sort of things are significantly hurting our district? They're taking away a mechanism that we can use to benefit our teachers, that benefits our students.
And I think definitely communicating with our legislators, about what is happening and how are these things happening?
Mm-hmm.
How do they impact us?
And I mean, that was one of them that was a last second.
It was a last second midnight edition that was just kind of thrown in there. And, what we're talking about is the 3-day, you're only permitted to have 3-day asynchronous learning. And, we're still trying to kind of figure that whole aspect out. The state's giving a little bit of guidance on that. We've applied for the 1003 waiver. They were supposed to pass that in June. That's now been pushed back to July. So we're still kind of waiting on that. But yeah, like Michelle and I have said, it's really kind of putting us in a bad position because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
All those professional days could very easily suddenly not be happening this year because of the state and what the decisions that they've made.
And in no other profession do you have to do. You can develop yourself professionally while you're on the job. I mean, that's when you're not expected to do it outside of your, it's just unfortunate that it's viewed so differently. It has been, it always has been, but it's just that expectation that, you need to be in, they don't see the need for the development, and it's so important.
And we definitely don't want to get back to the days of the only way you get professional development time is to have a sub in your room, because that's not the best for students either. Or the teachers, they double work when they have a sub. They don't, so that's not a great
And
solution.
you don't even have subs to be able to do that.
No, yeah. If we had subs,
I mean, that's once again the shortage
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Larry, he's there.
He's a good one though.
And we like to see his face.
Yes, we do.
And I think definitely communicating to our legislators.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, because you guys are elected officials, you carry a lot of clout. So making those phone calls or sending those emails to our state legislators, they really, consider your opinions highly when they look at these different kinds of things. But any other thoughts, questions?
No, I think you guys did a good job. I
Yeah.
liked everything was laid out nicely and
Good.
it's
So-
where we were wanting to head.
So what we'll do is in the July board meeting, we'll ask for you guys to kind of, for lack of a better word, vote on this or approve this. Like we've said, this will kind of, we'll change and we'll tweak as we go through it, but at least you understand where we're going, the direction we're going, and you kind of give, stamped with approval that, we understand and we agree with where we're headed and stuff. So we'll tweak some things, bring it back at the July board meeting for you guys to consider. Mr. Vice President, that's all we have for this evening.
So anything else for the good of the cause?
I have one question. We had some staff lists included in our board packet. Are these pretty accurate and nailed down at this point, barring enrollment changes?
Pretty well.
Okay.
What specific question?
Not really, just a general question.
Gotcha. I think the only concern we have right now is kindergarten in both buildings. I think when you look at those numbers right now, I think we had 3 kindergarten teachers in each of the buildings. Numbers are only supporting 2 in each of those buildings. So I think currently what we've looked at is taking one of those kindergarten teachers and moving them back to preschool. Is that correct?
We've already done
Yeah.
It wasn't on your
Yeah,
sheet.
that's not on the sheets.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's already happened in both buildings. So if kindergarten numbers do increase, we would be, I mean, if they increase enough, then we would be adding a person.
Yeah.
But not reducing from what, and staff is already aware. Those were, I think that all happened after those were submitted.
So that was, we're very, quite honestly, this is very not normal for our numbers. Well, no, not normal for our numbers for kindergarten. You know, we've, I think we've always had 3 sections of both buildings.
Yeah, we can do that.
So yeah, so it's, you know, I don't know what was happening that year, but we're hoping that maybe another 15 or 20 kids will show up at the last minute.
All right. There's nothing else. We'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
They do that in.
We have a motion by Mr. Hall, second by Ms. Will. We are adjourned.
Well, they provided from like a week